All right. So, I just discovered Shardlake, and which is a series on Hulu but also on Disney Plus. And I'm a sucker for historical fiction, especially if it's a murder mystery. And this this delivers in spades. So I've only watched the first episode so far. And it starts off with a dedication to the author of the books, who died like a week before the premiere, which seriously sucks that you didn't even get to see at least one episode of the series. But anyway, I don't know how much of an input he had, but considering it was dedicated to him, I'm gonna say he had quite a bit. But anyway, so it starts off with the monastery, and one of the, what I thought at first was a monk, sneaking around in the middle of the night, and someone else notices it, and I thought that he would be the one to go after him. But then we just see a cloaked figure just, doing a baseball swing and decapitating him, which it should not be funny, but I found it funny. And so then we get back to the city. I assume London. And this is in 1536. And the king plus Thomas Cromwell want to get rid of Catholicism. They want to close the monasteries. Basically because they created, Henry VIII created a new religion so he could divorce his wives. So he ends up decapitating them. He ends up getting all his wives, even though the whole point was so he could divorce them. And that's why he left the church. This makes zero sense, and that is historical, and it still makes no sense. So even though I was questioning why the abbot is black, because slavery was still a thing in the 1500s in England, but, who knows? Just because slavery existed doesn't mean that there were no free blacks. So yeah, I don't know enough about the history of England to say either way whether it could happen or couldn't. Obviously in the US that just would not be a thing. And so one of the brothers, one of the monks, finds Singleton, and they go to get the doctor, the abbot and a couple of others, and now I don't know if this was just the doctor's perception of the way he was looking, but he did look very angry, which could be interpreted if you're freaked out of your mind because, he was probably killed by someone who didn't like the fact that he was there to dissolve the abbey. So he has every right to think that he's next. perfectly reasonable. Even though he's a bit hysterical, it's still, deep down, it's reasonable. And so he made it look like they were going after him, that they were going to kill him, which wasn't the case. But this show so far has done a great job of making it seem like it could literally be anybody. So, Shardlake, oh my god, I'm going to go dyslexic on this name. Shardlake, gets up. We see what looks like ribs out of the back of his back. Like, he's malnourished. It was very bizarre, but he also walks not exactly like he walks like a hunchback, but he doesn't actually, it didn't look like he actually has a hunchback, but he walks like one. So he obviously has some sort of either defect or he got seriously injured. We find out later that it is an infirmity, so obviously it was something since birth. So he wants to go to court, and it's so sweet how he psychs himself up when he first gets up to, get himself going. I thought it was adorable that he does that, because somebody has got to psych you up, right? So he gets ready to go out. And he watches this woman who is trying to convince everybody that it was magic that she got a parrot to talk. Because I guess at this moment in time, it wasn't a well-known fact that that parrots can talk, that you can train parrots to say whatever you want them to say. Either that, or it's just a matter of, the educated people know that, and then the unwashed masses are just dumb. That they're not taught anything. Because that was a thing back in this time, that, education of any stripe was relegated to those rich enough to partake in it. If you ever watched Oliver Twist, or those types of, wait, is it Oliver Twist? Now I'm starting to question that. Whatever. But, that was a thing. The difference in education was vast. Because all the rich people cared about was that they could get people to do their bidding. To do these back-breaking jobs or do these other jobs. And obviously, if they were intelligent, if they were knowledgeable, they would be less likely to do said jobs. They would want to do, anything else. Because they would have the capacity to do anything else. So, anyway, so Thomas Cromwell's assistant comes and gets Shardlake, and it seems like he's testing to see what Shardlake feels like about the parrot. And he's like, it's a trick. Now, whether he knows that you can train a parrot, or whether he thinks it's something else, I do not know. But he is smart enough to know that this isn't some sign of God, that this isn't God's will, or whatever the hell. And based on Jack's reaction, it seems like he was just needling him just to see how he would react. Would he just be in awe of the parrot and agree that there's this special connection that this woman has with God, that she got the parrot to talk, or whether he was going to realize that, nah, that's not that special. But anyway, he takes him to Cromwell, and he had already gone to the court to tell them what was going on, that they were taking Shardlake for themselves, that they had business with him. And finally, in order to get Shardlake to follow him, he just said, there's been a murder, and it was somebody you know. It was Robin Singleton. So he then now goes with, and Jack is just running. He's just walking normally, completely forgetting the fact that this guy is sort of like a hunchback without a hunch. Like I said, it's very bizarre what his infirmity is called. But, so he points it out that, wait up, if you want me to follow you, you can't be going this fast. And so right now he sounds like a total jerk. And, it's one thing to test him to see how he would react to the parrot, but it's entirely another thing when it's obvious that this man can't walk very fast because of his problem, and to just ignore it and run away. But, it's possible he totally forgot about, it's like, hurry, we have to hurry, or whatever. But his reaction is to Shardlake saying to hold up. That's what makes it dickish, because it's one thing to completely forget, but it's another thing to be lippy when someone points out that they cannot walk that fast. So anyway, they go to Cromwell, and apparently they know each other. And he first has this very bizarre discussion about two skulls of St. Barbara. So this, obviously, we've set the tone that this show is going to completely and utterly make fun of Catholics. Now, I couldn't find anything about the author, whether there was a reason behind it, whether he's an ex-Catholic who has a problem with the church for whatever reason, or if he's an atheist who just makes fun of religions in general, or if he's religious but he just can see that when something is patently absurd in his own religion. Because there are people who do that. So he basically he basically is quizzing Shardlake to see how he would respond. I assume because he didn't want a Catholic. Because they're basically trying to squeeze out Catholicism. So I think a part of that was to see if he was Catholic, and a part just to see how he would react in general. Because again, you can make fun of your own in-group. That's okay. You can see the absurdity in some of the things that people believe. It's fine. And, but it was also weird because he acted like Shardlake didn't know why he was there. When it's like, well, you know him. Did you really think that your assistant could bring him there without basically telling him at least a little bit of what's happening? So why are we beating around the bush now? So they finally give him the letter from the doctor. And he reads it, finds out about, just that he was murdered, and this is what was, and he was there to help close down the monastery. So he's to ride out, and Jack is supposed to come with. And Shardlake is so not liking that. He wants to do this by himself. Mainly because, they'd gotten off on the wrong foot already. He doesn't like him. So, apparently he has no choice. So, Jack comes, what I believe it was the next day, to come and get him. And he's oogling the man's housekeeper, Joan. So basically, this man has never met a skirt he did not like. All you have to do is be female and breathing, and he's going to oogle. So we went from just him being a general ass to being creepy. And if he wasn't what seems like to be the comic relief, I think they're leaning towards that, making him a bit more comic relief. You would just be like, ew, get away. And Shardlake just wasn't having it. It's like, she's married. Which, that's not a great look either, because even if she wasn't, what the hell, dude? You're not here to get laid. So they convince him to have something to eat. Then Shardlake goes to get ready, and they're always zeroing in on his back. But they're not telling us what his infirmity is. It just that he has it. And like I said, it's obvious it's not a hunchback because there's no hunch. But he does walk like you would expect a hunchback to walk. So I honestly do not know. Does he have too many ribs on one side? Too few? I just can't figure out what it is. But anyway, so it takes them 2 days to get to the monastery. And they get there, and they're not greeted very nicely. I mean, Shardlake is greeted nicely, and Jack is just completely, hand waved off. Which is why I'm thinking he's going to be the comic relief. So, then they observe one of the monks going, just losing his shit on a younger guy who, I don't know if he's actually a monk or monk in training, if that's a thing. And because he dropped a water jug. And it's obvious he knows something when he hears why Shardlake and Jack are here. Something freaked him out, and that's why he dropped the water jug. And he was about to get tortured. Now, later on we find out that this guy was also a soldier, which makes me wonder, what the hell? I mean, I was wondering that anyway. What is with this? I'm going to whip you because you did one thing wrong. You made a mistake. You had an accident, and obviously that's the worst thing you could do. I mean, I realize these aren't rich people, and finding these pictures isn't easy, but my God, it's not like he intentionally dropped the picture. He was freaked out about something. And so Shardlake basically chastised Mortimer for, that being his first thought, and the fact that Simon was okay with it was like, no, that's because you basically conditioned him to expect this. Not because he wants it, not because he's, not because of anything, but he's expecting it because that's what you do. And so he wants to meet with the abbot. He wants to meet with the doctor. So first, they meet with the doctor. And of course, they also want to be fed and gotten something to drink because, well, they were riding for 2 days. So he goes to meet the doctor in the church. And we see this shadowy figure watching him. And Shardlake immediately notices him. And I don't know what this person thought they were going to get away with, because they're making it obvious they're there. So Shardlake is trying to get this person to talk, and then they disappear. So he talks with the doctor, or at least they start talking with the doctor, and then these 2 monks walk in, and they say that, it's time for their daily prayers. And Shardlake, the doctor, and Jack are like, okay, go away now. We're kind of in the middle of something. Do this later. And it takes them like 2 or 3 times before they get them to leave. Now, it could be something nefarious. It could be that, like they suggested, that they're just spying. Or it could be just that they're so, habit is so ingrained in them that at this time you do this, at this time you do that, at this time you do this other thing. So it's so ingrained that they just can't grasp not doing it when they're supposed to be doing it. So it could go either way. And based on all the things that were happening later, it could still go either way. It could be nefarious. It could be that they're either spying, whether it's because they know something or they're afraid. Because it's obvious that there are a lot of people scared to death in this monastery. So they talk to the doctor, and Singleton doesn't tell him anything. He knows nothing about what's going on. He's convinced that the devil resides in this place, and that everybody has been told that this was done by an intruder. And Shardlake's like, you're out in the middle of nowhere. What intruder? It would actually be harder for the intruder to do this than it would be to just say it was somebody within the monastery. And as he's doing this, he's being listened to. And so I'm worried, oh boy, the doctor is going to be the next victim. He's going to wind up dead. So far that hasn't happened, at least not yet. So then they have a meal, and Brother Jerome, who apparently was forced on them, says not too nice things about Cromwell, and one being that he's a sodomite. And, that made me bristle, because I'm just waiting for it to come out that one of the monks happens to be gay, because that was a thing. Whether you scream woke, gay people always existed. Just because they were, hit over the head with a sledgehammer and told to told them, and they were told to not make it known, that was still a thing. But anyway, so they drag him away after he draws a knife on Shardlake. And so they drag him away, and they're like, oh, he's the brother of the king's new wife, Jane. That would be Jane Seymour, and no, not the actress. I would not be surprised if she wasn't named after that Jane Seymour. It could be an absolute coincidence, but whatever. So Shardlake's decided that he needs to talk to him as well, because he said something about an axe to the neck, which, considering the fact that Singleton was beheaded, that hits home. So they decide to send him to the crypt where they were keeping the body. And they kind of made light of it that they kept it there because the body won't decompose because it's cold. Shardlake starts coughing, Jack starts coughing. It's like, are you sure about that? And so Shardlake figures out that he's of medium height because of how the sword went through the neck and the fact that Singleton is a tall guy. So he's already starting to piece together a profile of the killer. Unfortunately, there are plenty of monks who are of medium height. And as one of the monks pointed out, that a lot of them used to be soldiers. So they know how to use swords. So it doesn't narrow things that much. But because that hooded figure, which we can only assume is a killer, was there when the doctor was there, we know that the doctor is not a suspect. Then Shardlake watches Simon lighting all the candles in the church. And he thinks back to when he did the same thing, and he was happily going to the priest to let him know that, he did this. And then the priest, pours cold water on him by telling him he could never become a priest because of his condition. Which they're really, really hammering home what despicable people the Catholics are. Now, I did read a little bit about the book, and Shardlake in the book is the narrator, so it could be that this is how Shardlake views Catholicism because of, his own experiences. So yeah, not very well. And so then he talks to Simon again, tries to get him to open up, and we again see the hooded figure. So we know Simon is not the killer, even though he won't tell him much of anything. And then later, now it looked like he went to pick something up on the floor, and then he collapses. So I don't know what happened, because I didn't see any gash on his forehead before that happened. So I don't know if there was something on the floor that was harmful. Because all they said was that he's having a fever, but we don't know. I mean, this is in the 1500s, so just breathing could get you killed. Because there was no good medicine. The science at this time wasn't exactly that great. So yeah, I mean, not that many years from now, they're going to have the bubonic plague. Actually, they might have already had a bout or two. I know that there was a big swath where the bubonic plague was a thing. So anyway, so one of the brothers, who happens to be the bookkeeper, finds him and takes him to be taken care of. No doctor in sight, because he doesn't want to leave his room, because he's scared to death. He doesn't even want to eat, because he is so afraid that they're going to try to kill him, which, paranoid, yes. But you really can't blame him. And based on what Simon said, at the end, there's more to it than just Robin being killed. He finally gets Simon to tell him that that Robin wasn't the first death, and that he tried to warn her. Now, we don't know who her is. Shardlake assumes it's Alice, but she said, he never warned me about anything. And she's like, yeah, I feel pretty safe here. Now, the way she was saying that, it was either that she was trying to think, what the hell is going on? Why would Simon say that? What's happening? Or she is just as scared as everybody else in the monastery. Because you could tell during the dinner scene that everybody was on edge. And it's not just because Jerome completely lost it and tried to attack Shardlake simply for being in association with Thomas Cromwell. So yeah, we're no closer to finding out who it is, because editing is a thing. The abbot looked like he was, after Simon was hurt, you could see him clutching at something. He looked very, I don't know if it was angry, scared, I wasn't sure. But, so yeah, we went through the montage, so I honestly have no idea who the killer is. We might still be introduced to them. Might be someone who we haven't met yet. They did say that they get the wine because they do trade. So it could be that one of the people they're trading with. But whatever it is, everybody is spooked. Now, one of the brothers tried to keep Simon quiet. It's like, oh, I need to give him medicine. I need to do this. I need to do that. And Shardlake's like, why aren't you letting him talk? And it could be that he knows something. Simon obviously does. It could be he knows something. It could be that he's just scared to death. I don't know if it's because he knows the killer, or just the fact that there is one, periodically bumping them off, that scares him and he doesn't want to talk, which would kind of defeat the purpose of Shardlake being there, but whatever. And, so Shardlake, and again, when he was alone in his quarters, he's muttering to himself. I don't know if he was just trying to make sense of everything, or if he was trying to give him a pep talk again. Because he had earlier seen, he saw earlier the hooded figure, and he tried to run after the hooded figure. And the hooded figure, while he's standing, seemingly blocking his way, just runs right past him. And I'm just like, what are you doing, Shardlake? You're obviously not equipped to stop anybody because he was able to run right past you and knock you down. So what did you think you were accomplishing? He was obviously, whoever it was obviously not going to talk to you because they hadn't even said a word. They didn't say a peep. So yeah, so that's how it ends. I'm really curious what's going to happen in the second episode. If there are going to be any more deaths. What is Shardlake going to uncover? Because the purpose, Cromwell said, even if one of the monks isn't the killer, find something else that they're doing that could be used as an excuse to shut down the monastery. So, I'm sure the monks know that if anything comes out, anything within sniffing distance of being illegal, that would just give the crown an excuse to shut them down. So I get that as well. But at the same time, dude, people are killing you. Someone is killing you. Someone is killing people in the monastery. Why do you not at least say that? And hope that Shardlake doesn't find out why this person is doing the killing and finding out whatever other secrets there are. Because it's not going to do you any good if you're all dead. Yes, you will be shut down, but which is worse, being shut down or dead? This is the 1500s, so maybe dying by a cold-blooded killer, maybe that is beneficial. That's better to have that than whatever they would end up having to do if they were shut down. Who knows? Again, this is the 16th century, so it's possible that they decided that it would be better to die with these secrets than to be out on the street with nowhere to go. It's not like they have an orphanage system here. Or a good one, anyway. I mean, what are these people to do? It's not like they have an unemployment. They'd be out on the street begging. So, yeah, I can see why they would not want to open their yaps, but at the same time, it's just so frustrating that nobody is talking, and they're preventing other people from talking. So, yeah, I'm of two minds of this. But anyway, that is all I have, I believe, for this episode. I think I covered everything. Oh yes, just one more thing about Alice. I wonder if it could be her that Simon's talking about. It could be someone else. He also made a gift, and then he put it in the water. So, in a body of water. I don't know if that's a river. Probably a river. But, so we don't know who her is. It could be somebody who's already dead. I mean, again, this is the 16th century. People die very easily. So, it could be a death that had nothing to do with the case that Shardlake is currently investigating. Yeah, now I think I've covered everything about this, and with that, I will see you guys in the next video.